Teni number sama langa to tele shua ta chapchi to teni ane teringi chala teni ngarantu chudin shiva te tuksene cha yore ane palen kenze wesegi ze shabi ki lama kyambu ki songchu te ane teringi kapsu bawa le kyundi ki koni ma shuya yere ane tambu tela ane ngarantu kolong chanju ki sem sesene kolon nabar tabani kone yabo che senaro chis ane ngaranzo che sembe kala ngaran chipo tundu mayin batini teringi kebi tsawa te ta ngaran rovati che semjen tamjigi tundu la ane ngarangi che te nyingi sama kolon nabar tabi kone nyenaro chis.
I'd like to begin by wishing everyone good morning. And today, the dharma that we are speaking about is the Calling the Guru from Afar by Jamgon Kongtrul Lodro Tai. Today, we have come to the passage that teaches on karmic cause and effect. So first of all, I would like to ask everyone to please listen with a motivation of bodhicitta, with a pure motivation. You should think to yourself that you're not listening just for your own sake, but instead that you're listening for the sake of all sentient beings throughout all the 6 realms of samsara. And so please listen with such a pure motivation.
首先祝大家向大家问好，早上好。那今天我们在讲的这个法呢，是叫做遥呼上师祈请文的这个法，然后呢是由掌供康楚罗卓太耶这位大师所著作的。那今天讲到的这个部分呢，是从因果业报开始讲。那首先想要请大家升起菩提心，升起清净的动机来这个听取教言。那也就是说，我们听取这个佛法，并不是只是为了自己的利益，而是为了所有的众生，6道轮回当中所有的众生。请大家升起这样清净的动机来听法。
Teni tsawa nala kare songa resa na lusem tonga tamo miso kyangs ngendro tola mise nyingdo chens gyunde lo me ngonsom tongshindo kewa mitro tibir yola pel lama kena toje nyuto si lela yikche kewa chinji lo sene songa resa.
And so the text beginning on page 53 reads, "Not able to endure the merest physical or mental pain, with blind courage, we do not hesitate to fall into lower realms. Although we see directly the unfailing law of cause and effect, we do not act virtuously, but increase in our unvirtuous activity. Lama, think of us, behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us that we come to trust completely in the laws of karma."
那法本当中呢，是从第53页开始，记言如下：宁为细身心苦恼亦不忍，趋于恶趣仍顽强无惧，因果不爽历历如现前，不修善业徒增罪恶状。上师见知我， 其以慈悲及垂顾，加持升起信仰业力心。
Teni da ngaranzu ki teni lu sem ki sana chidangi ngaranzu lu ki koni mekewa nga ki koni mekewa mabu che sagi yore tuyi kundu tundu sama teni lu ki koni kewa sana ya re nga ki iki koni sem ki koni mekewa sana ya tunga sama che kewa sabay na ani ngaranzu tundu sama 개와 대선 제국의 개와 차지거래스 미개와 사바이나 내도 삼아 동화 요약이 근데 동화 참모지 내가 메서받는데 중요해요래스 된데도 삼발라 당하란조기 달르nga 이송이 미개와 사바디 되게 가리용 그래서나 나란조 되는 엔돌라 줘야기 되니 된데지 차지거래스 엔돌라 줘바이나 당하란조기 둔조기 개와지 람바이나 있네 아니 나란조기 둔조기 개와지 람바이나네 나란조 최제보산나 최제하기 지나하고 말했어 네가 나신기 나라 sem전도 라오요 말서 페나 차샤바이나 답 네마 더지바이나 되니 드랑네마 더나 sem전도 신나다 릴라스 고소소소리 라온더지여서 다 wild animals like the 라온더지여서 다 드린 가상이 되잖아 sem전도 라오요 말했어 가르치고나 라오요 말에 최적어서는 최제 국가요 말에 아니 라왕고는 요 말에서 년도글이랑 하는 메커서는 년도글을 개발라 마이나 되는 딘도인데 잠발라 된 년도글을 탄라 와이나 는 가투이 이나야 되는 알아줘 당 년도글을 담은 딘데기 되는 절만나지 뭐 되는 년도를 말하는데 답한 거래스
So we use our bodies and our minds. With our bodies, we have accumulated many non-virtues. And likewise, with our speech, we've accumulated many non-virtues. And so with our bodies, we've done unvirtuous things with our body. We've done unvirtuous things with our speech and with our mind. And all of these will bring suffering. If we have accomplished virtue, then that would bring a good result. Have a virtuous result, but we have done many unvirtuous things, and these bring us suffering. They bring us suffering that is subtle, and suffering that is unbearable. And so, what will come of all the misdeeds that we have done with our body, speech, and mind? They will lead us to rebirth in the lower realms. And if we think about the lower realms, for example, if we were born as an animal, we might think to ourselves, oh, I'd like to practice dharma, but we'd have no ability. We wouldn't know how to do it. We couldn't practice dharma as an animal. Not only that, we'd have no power. We'd have no freedom. In old times, animals could wander where they want in fields or in forests. They'd have freedom. They were wild animals. They could go where they want. But these days, that's very rare for animals. They no longer have any freedom, let alone the freedom or the ability to practice the Dharma. And so if we are born in the lower realms, then we would never have any chance to practice the Dharma. And so we must do everything we can to make sure that that does not happen.
那通常呢，我们会用我们的这个身还有心来做不管是善业还是恶业。那透过我们的身体呢，我们则是累积了许多的这个恶业，不管是透过我们的身体还是身体上的这个嘴巴讲了很多恶言。那这些恶业呢，都会为我们带来这个伤害还有痛苦。所以呢，在身体上我们造就了这么多恶业，然后呢，我们在心里透过心意也造了许多恶业，这些呢都会为我们带来痛苦。如果我们透过这三门是在行善业的话呢，那我们当然会享有这个善果，但是呢，我们一直做的这些恶业只会为我们带来恶果，或是维系的一些痛苦。例如说呢，做这些恶业可能呢往后会让我们投生到恶趣，也就是下三道。 那其中呢，例如说我们身为动物或是畜生，我们可能当下会想说，我想要修持佛法，但是身为畜生，因为愚昧，我们则没有办法得知如何去修持佛法，而且呢，也没有任何的自由可言。在往昔呢，可能动物还有某种程度的这个自由，它们可以随心所欲的在这个野外行走。但是呢，今日很多很多动物都变成家禽了，所以并没有办法拥有往昔的这种自由，更不用说要修持佛法了。所以呢，如果我们得生这个畜生的话，是没有办法，完全没有可能修持佛法的。因此，我们要尽我们可能的，现在准备好，不要投生下去。
내가 나중에 되는 거라도 냐와 잡지 개바이나 냐와라 차장이 배 동안 되잖아요. 말아서 소유도비오 말해서 루이 쌤 동아 타모자야. 소유도비오 말해서 내가 나중에 땅가만 도저는 냐와 잡기 직 동행이 용나지 직 쌤라 대냐와 생각 세고 삼지 거라도 제가 터져요 그래서 내가 말아서 냐와라 뭐 레차레스 대대도 좀 늦기 그 야와도들라 다 가져 지 동안 연구요 봐. 차 야와 사냥 장년 되도 마보질라 가는 좀 연구요래서 되도 차다 간대체네 연구에서는 가는 좀 레춘데데 루와 매바 신도라 되네. 가는 좀 레춘데 문숨도 루와 매바 문숨도 통신도 되는 가는 좀 랑바디라 로도요래서 되네도 잡아라 되는 가는 좀 임발라 하고네 되네. 개와 대축 디바데 빵 펠고야 돼. 에 미스베 케치모레스 테네 라마케 노 토지니도 세 생활이 레레 이체케와 진질로도 테네 라마게 토지니도 저르지 생활이 레레 이체케와 인케겐알라 진랍지로 나로치 가르에서는 나란주기 뒤균도 레게 코레 레 개와 미케와 최기 마오지 나란주 뒤균도 최 데블로그요레 라만남보다 손제 인요거래 마보지 인요거래 이나가라기 규 셈기 규도도 오늘기 장 니토도 랑보다 가나도 레라오지 도토고 말했어 근데도 만도벌 때네 라마케기 투지스로치스 아 레라 이체케 버체네 되네 케버 진질라프치 세네는 라마로 메기 되네 나고 버레스.
Now, we also might be born in the hells from our misdeeds. And there are many in the hells, there are the hot hells and the cold hells, and there's a lot of suffering, the sufferings of heat and cold, which we wouldn't be able to bear. We wouldn't even be able to bear the slightest suffering of the hells with our body, speech, and mind. And if you really know about the sufferings of the hell, then even if you just hear the word the hells, then you would faint and lose consciousness from fear. But we have been born in the hells many times. We've experienced the suffering of the hells many times in past lives. We need to remember. So we need to remember now and think now about how much suffering there is in the hells, how much suffering there is from cold, how much suffering there is from heat. And the reason we need to do this is because karmic cause and effect is unfailing. We may see that. We may see that karmic cause and effect is unfailing, yet we don't always act on it. So it's very important for us to act upon virtue and to give up non-virtues. This is extremely important. As it says in the text, Lama, think of us, behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us that we come to trust completely in the laws of karma. And so the reason it's saying, please bless me, is that I can truly believe that in karmic cause and effect. And what is the reason for that? The reason is because there's a karmic cause and effect is discussed in many different teachings. We have read it many times. We have heard many teachings on it. And yet it's not very easy to really bring it into our hearts, to bring it into our beings. And so for that reason, we're saying, Guru, please think of me, please look at me and bless me so that I can develop the true belief in karma. And so we need to do this, we need to develop the belief by way of devotion.
那除了这个这个恶趣，除了刚刚所说的畜生道，我们有可能投生到地狱。那地狱有很多种，有这个极苦的，还有这个极热的，也有这个严寒的这种地狱。总之呢，在地狱中有种种的痛苦，有这个酷暑，还有这个严寒的这样的地狱，连一点点的这种痛苦，我们其实是都受不了的。那如果我们知道地狱有这些痛苦的话呢，真正了解地狱的痛苦的话呢，我们甚至是听到地狱就会昏过去的。那在往昔呢，其实我们也投生了地狱非常多次，只是我们不记得了。我们应该现在要唤起这样的回忆，知道这个地狱到底有多么的痛苦，有多么可能接受多么的这个高温的这个酷暑或是严寒。那为什么要了解这些呢？是因为呢，我们必须要知道说因果是不虚的。但是呢，虽然我们有时候听了因果不虚，也听了很多次了，但是我们却没有办法如法的去检视我们的自己的行为，让它符合因果的这个规律，也就是常行善业，然后呢断舍恶业。所以呢，在这里我们的这个法本说：上师见知我，其以慈悲及垂顾，加持升起加持升起信仰业力心。在这里呢，我们说信仰业力，就是因为我们在这个教导当中说到业力很多次了，我们听了很多次的这个开示了，然后也读了很多相关的这些文献，但是呢，我们却没有办法将它真的融入我们的心中，然后如法的行持。所以在这里，我们就这个祈请上师这个加持我们，让我们呢可以透过这样的前进力。这样的前进心在心中由衷的升起，这个信仰业力的这个心。
되네 당가라서 녜셰데 띵니 소소 띵니 녜셰지 맞춤바이나 아니 균젠데 야보지 학원에 녜셰지 맞겠나 아니 나란저 동안데 줄로 쌤 지기요 말이스 동안데 지기요 말데 맞제데 잠발라 아니 뢰 좀레데 원숨도 되네 나란저 통구 말이스 뢰 좀레서 원숨도 통해야 돼 빼게 참버리스 텐데인데 참 빼다고지 샤바이나 땡냐마 하는 거란주 가규모는 메카브라 도제되는 대왕가마 바기 아니 빼다고지 샤나서 가규모는 송제카브라 가리샤나서 세나 에마 되니 야나라 되니 셴바 파바생은지요레스 코데 파과되니마다 봐 쇼갱하고 내 파과니마다 파바 장례되어 세요레스 코 셴바이 되잖아 파바데 가디세거에서는 쇼갱하고 파바세가 세상에 샤강이 티들라 아니 공바지여서는 나라도 마야나 공바지 쇼갱하고 공바데서 차단을 카르나 동에다 뒤부터 땅서 동으로 얘는 뒤부터 땅 동대가 되는 거야 라데 셴바데 다 파고데서 세야기 니마 다와 자티다고 치다 뒤뒤가 미세게 다 거라 추저에 잡다 뒤저다해서 말에 공바기 뒤저 카르나라 되네 아니 파고데 세계여서 니마지 고바디기 캠보기 니람나라 가리종선잖아 부중중지 레네 캠볼라스 디린체지디 칸가데지 마도로치 말미 세계레 스케 칸가도 아세가 용거도 마세계레 살은 캠보데 니세바 니세데 잠발라 캠보데 디 쇼게데 칸가 마도바샤레스 칸가 마도바샤데 잠발라 테니 셴바데 니쇼네고 디니모네 파바세야기 라요 말 테네 디 파바세야 마라데 참발라 테니 셴바데고 가로체네 고바델레네 토네 캠볼라 테니 켄토 콤바기 칸나데 간제네 마도레 살라데 잠발 아니 타왕아이 니람나라 테니 가레요 우충중지 데델레네 니람나라 테니 감마세로체 나케브로체 세네데니 데레체 랍송 디네 칸나 동메 살라데 잠발 테니 셴바데고 베 셈나로 초로질레네 녜셰다오지 띵니 케네 오 가르에서는 ngay 파고디 니마 타바 되저데 강한 동어다 되저 따다 라오지 세계열에 다 드린 가능한 마당가 파고 맞을 때는 되니 콜라페 로 망고지라 파고서 로를 교바라오지는 녜신라오지 파고서야 티당 되니 젤라드도 차다 캠보텔라 풀 진제능한 셴바라오지 짠에 지기메스 되니 내가 나지 코로나 샤방 내가 나신게 되니 신미 샤메에서 그런 거 되고 교면잖아 되니 그런 게 샤메 제는 되는지를 된다는 신지 나라도 레춤데 생각의 sem랑의 시다 된다 저기 교바께 도와는 오늘 나라는 저는 오늘 추추서 저거들 레춤데라 된지 거여서레스
So we generally don't have really deep conviction in karmic cause and effect, and until we have that, until we understand the suffering of the lower realms, it's difficult to develop that deep conviction. Because as long as we do not really fear the suffering, we won't see karmic cause and effect. But seeing karmic cause and effect is extremely important. To give an example of that, a few years ago at the Kagyu Munlam, the Gyalwang Karmapa gave an example or told a story in a teaching. So long ago in China, there was a butcher who killed hogs, who killed pigs and hogs every day. And so he did this every day, and he killed innumerable pigs over every day. But his slaughterhouse was near a monastery. And near a Mahayana monastery. Every morning in the monastery, they would ring a bell. And when he heard the bell, he would get up and then get ready to start butchering pigs that day. And so he was basically, when he heard the bell, he would get up and go off and kill. And so one night, the abbot of the monastery had a dream. And in the dream, a child came to him and said, "Oh, please, Abbot, don't ring the bell tomorrow, because if you ring the bell, then I will get killed. I will be killed." And then the Kempo woke up and he thought to himself, "I can't let that happen." And so he prevented them from ringing the bell. He didn't let them ring the bell. And so the butcher that morning didn't wake up, and he couldn't get up and kill the animals the way he normally did. So later on that day, the butcher was wondering, well, why didn't they ring the bell? So he went to the monastery and he found the abbot and he asked him, "Why didn't you ring the bell this morning?" And the abbot said, "Well, last night I had a dream that a child came to me and said, 'They're going to kill me. Please don't let them kill me. Please protect me. Please don't let them ring the bell.'" And when the abbot said this, then the butcher really had a real strong feeling. It really moved him, and he really felt certainty then in karmic cause and effect. And he thought to himself, "I've killed so much, I've taken so many lives," and he felt really incredible remorse in his mind. He gave up killing. He gave away all of his knives and all of his equipment for slaughtering, and he made the commitment or took the oath to never butcher an animal again. And he even became a vegetarian. And so this is because he was able to develop real conviction in karmic cause and effect. And so in this way, if we are able to similarly develop such conviction in karmic cause and effect, then our dharma practice will become dharma, and we will be careful of karmic cause and effect.
那普遍来说呢，我们对于这个因果业力并不是相当的这个深信。那在我们完全去理解这个恶道的痛苦之前呢，我们是没有办法对因果升起这样的这个深信不疑的。如果我们如果我们不畏惧恶趣的话呢，我们就不会对因果产生任何的这个信仰。这就好像这个大宝法王在几年前的这个格局大祈愿法会当中开示到，他说了一个故事，说很久以前在中国呢，有一位屠夫，那这位屠夫呢每天都会杀 都会杀生，都会宰猪，然后杀好几头猪，就是非常的多的数量。那这个屠夫他的这个肉店呢，又刚好在一座大乘的寺院旁边，所以每天早上呢，这个大乘的寺院他们会这个鸣钟的时候呢，这个屠夫就会以这个钟为一个提醒，让当下呢就会起床，然后准备宰猪。那有一天晚上呢，这个寺院的住持就有了一个梦，他就梦到有一个孩子过来跟他说，住持和尚，请你明天不要鸣钟，当你一鸣钟，我明天就必须会被这个宰掉了。那所以呢，这位这个住持和尚，这位堪布他醒来以后，他就赶快下令让大家不要鸣钟。那也因此呢，这位屠夫当天就没有醒来。那他没有醒来，后来起来了就觉得奇怪，我今天怎么没有起来呢？怎么没有听到钟声呢？所以他觉得很困惑，他就去找了住持堪布去问问到底怎么一回事。那这位堪布呢就跟他说，我昨天梦到了有一个孩子来跟我求救，他说你一鸣钟，我明天就要被杀了，请你保护我，不要让这个钟响起。那这位屠夫呢，听到这个梦境，当下呢就对因果业力产生了这个深信不疑的这个信念，而且呢开始呢对他往昔的所作所为升起了这个悔改之心。那因此呢，他也就完全的这个放弃了这个杀生这个杀业，将他所有的器具还有刀子都布施出去了。而且呢，从此以后还立了誓，不再杀生，并且完全变成一个素食者了。所以呢，这位屠夫在当下会有这么大的反应，是因为他对因果完全升起了这个深信。那我们呢，相同的也要升起这样子深信不疑，对因果深信不疑。如果我们可以对因果这么确信的话呢，我们在往后的这个修持都可以成为如法的修持。所以这就是为什么我们对因果要这个非常的慎重。
Dende zambala kyu kewa sana ane ngaranzu ndewu kewa miyachi dan kyu megawa sana ndewu ngenba miyachi ngaranzu ngunsu ta kyunde le kyunde ngunsumdu tongzu yores kapla teni ngaranzu ge ndewu te namin tunga de tongchu su tsendila ya tongchu su mintenga yores kapla tsendila maminga dere yores tene 카시게 세거를 카시디 딥고 디바 간주 제나 챈들의 기본 장장 용도도 간들했어. 카시게 개와 간주 사네 아니 동해 장장 미그 람도 장장 마도와 야부장 용금이도 가르에서는 카시 제번전을 내대고 가르에서는 카시 디바 가주 사나야 되니 세대 람도가 가르에서는 고 카시 디바기 카강야 치돌라더니 챈들 람도 좋아해 요래 양 개왕엄마가 손음 야보 사드 걸어요 디 톱다 뉴발레는 챈들 디바다 미백메케와 가져지네야 디가스게 콜라 람도마도 소마토한데 요레스 카셰 챈들 간데 지개와 망보 지나야 되니 람도마도데 야고 마야데 용고 요레스 가레스 개왕엄마 에 야고 마체발 때는 챈들 람도마도 야고 마요 아마 레르 때는 중요레스 덴데 인도 잠발라 챈들이야 가시 통주 챈들인데 람도마도 야고 만조베나 되는 거란조 상주주비 몰람나라 가르송에다 렌드랑 셴도ኞ와 만조치 저선 가리 제공엠바 임바이나 챈딜라 코로나 민네 되니 개워치마데 되니 당가라도 밀루지 토바이나 짱마 메손라 만도와 당가라 탈와다 삼지 캠비 고만 토나다 빼야버려 임바이나 되니 통주 용수 주데 챈딜라 코로 미야게 데데치네 송요레스
And so if the cause is virtue, then the result is virtue. If the cause is unvirtue, then the result is bad. And this is something we can actually see in karmic cause and effect. Sometimes the results of karma are visible. They happen in this lifetime visibly for us. but sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they happen in future lifetimes. And so here there's a doubt that a question that many people have. This is that there's some people who just do all sorts of bad things in this lifetime. And yet everything works out for them. Everything is good and they have good lives. And other people, they always are doing virtuous things. And yet, no matter what they do, nothing works out. They only experience suffering. They have difficulties in this lifetime. And so why is that? And the reason that this happens is that for some people, no matter how much unvirtue and how many misdeeds they do, everything works out for them. And this is not because of the misdeeds that they have done in this lifetime, that they filled up this lifetime with. Instead, it's because of the it's because of the virtues that they have done in past lives, that they had, that they have good lives now, no matter how much non-virtue they do in this lifetime. And yet there are also people who do a lot of virtue, and yet nothing works out well for them in this lifetime. And this is because of their bad behavior, the bad conduct in previous lifetimes. It is happening because of karma. And so it's just that the karma from the past is ripening on them visibly in this lifetime. And sometimes sometimes the karma does ripen upon us visibly, as it is said in the noble aspiration for excellent conduct. It says, may their lifetimes. It's basically saying, may all of my karma ripen on me now in this lifetime where I can see it, so that I will not have to experience the lower realms in future lifetimes. And so even if we are unable to achieve liberation and omniscience in this lifetime, at least if we might be able to experience the results visibly in this lifetime, as it is said in this prayer.
Kempela, sorry, your internet was shaky for a bit. I'm just looking for the quote from the Noble Prayer for Excellent Conduct.
Okay, sorry about that. The quote says that it's a prayer that says, may my bad karma not ripen in other lifetimes, not ripen in future lifetimes.
所以呢，如果我们种下的这个因是善的，那我们所得的果也会是善的。如果我们所种下的是恶因，那得到的这个果也会是恶果。这就是这个因果的这样的一个定律。那有时候呢，我们看因果，或是我们在思考因果的时候，我们可能会看，我们要知道这个因果有的是在这一生会成熟，有的是在来世才会成熟的。所以呢，我们会看到有些人好像这一生只行恶，做尽了种种恶事，但是呢，他们却好像享有非常舒适的、非常好的一个生活。相反的，也有人呢，这一生都在行善，但是呢，他们好像一直在受苦，总是碰到许许多多的困难。那为什么第一种人会因行恶却在这个享受着这个好的果报呢？这并不是说他今生所做的这些恶业在这一生还换取了善的果报，这是因为他在往昔做了许多的善，而这些善因呢，在往昔过去生世当中种下的善因呢，在这一世成熟了，所以他现在享有这些善的果报。但是这是这样的第一个情况。那第二个情况呢，并不是说这个人呢都在行善，但是呢就却受着恶果，这不是直接的，是因为呢他这些恶果呢是他往昔所行的恶，在今生所成熟了，所以呢是这样的一个情形。那当然呢，也有一些这个因果业报是在今生就是今生结因，今生受果的，这样也有。在普贤行愿品里面呢，就有一句这个祈愿文是愿我的所有的恶业在今生成熟。也就是说呢，你在这里祈愿，就算我今生没有办法得到遍知的佛果，没办法证得遍知的佛果，也至少让我今生所造的这些恶业，这些因果在今生就成熟，不要等到来世。
Then that 통 군대 원숨도 통주도 그 빼다오지라 다 통 군대 생활도 당하는도 통수 용격이 군대 생활에 빼셔 양 경험감 봐게 양 중지 송낭송성 중대 간에 송낭송세나 다 챈들라 다 개와사 봐야나 제우 개와밍하다 중에 봐서마 제우 내맘이 챈들라 그런 미야기 양 경험감 봐게 아마 로주주 송송 로주대 간에 송송세나 Nema Bella Tini, Kikingi Chida, Kichuchi Yores, and Kikin the Pe Topa Chambo, Sunday La Pe Keba, and Kidu the Kikin the Pe Winshi Pe Kambajores, and Kikin the Winshi can do Masi on the Tambala, and Kidu de la Teniko Teze de Nima Dunmach Mindus, Tanima Dungichella Kidu the Tondo over there, and Kikin the King. Kendi tambala ani kekende karisungresana ketudela ta kyono nima tungirila kyono nami togala doshos that is nami te da ani koba de tis parura tharing boyasare ani kiran kege nami togala doshos ina ketude kaya hagu mare ani ko ketude kada chene da kegenge nala nami toga do pama penya toga do kada chene dode tambala ani langwa chuchenbo je sita dela Then Budroma sang pe ta mango yora tongra Budroma then group chala mango chugara Budroma mambo chui damne yon de chui palap ke Budroma de ma charo chigor then ketu de ko karichere ta chui de Budroma chadang ta chui palap ke ma che dugre sana ko Budroma chadang so jobne chui de tis ma do cha kan Budroma chadang so jobne de ne Budroma de chaza da utang ne ko 나라 로저레스 아니다 개겐데 가르스를 저는 니마 등이 님한테 저는 인지 민지 소를 로쇼하스 니마 등을 말로하스 데로마 아니 거 니마 등이 따다 레야로 온데 잠발라 아니 코시요 말 아니 코 마시 잠바 정요데 마톤데 잠바 개겐데 되니 잠샤주네 제데 가서 문식이 쓰용데 잠발라 가르치는 요래서나 거기 아니 무조마 통다 먹고지 so kyawada tseza tangbagi namingi ene koge tsezede tsede mazo wajene tsede yape ne mashiwa dere cha yungu yoretse dere zama tongyo nyungyurgi teni ngarandu di yungi peda waji dere che sha nangso honsa.
Now, to give another example of karmic cause and effect that we can see, there is a type of karma that's called karma that is visibly experienced. This means karma that is experienced in this whose ripening is experienced in this very same life. And the Gyalwang Karmapa once told a story about this. It's a story about how if you accumulate virtue, it ripens as virtue. If you accumulate bad deeds, it accumulates as suffering. And so the story that Gyalwang Karmapa told was like this. So long ago in Tibet, there were a teacher and a student. And the teacher had a high realization. He had very good meditation, dhyana meditation. And he had also developed clairvoyant powers. And when he was sitting in meditation, looking with his clairvoyant powers one day, he saw that his student had only 7 days left to live. And so knowing that his student only had 7 days left to live, he didn't tell that to his student, but instead what he said is, now you go and visit your parents and your friends for a little bit and then come back. Now his parents and friends lived at some distance from the monastery. So the student, who knew nothing about having only 7 days left to live, went to go. And as he was going by, there was he came to a river, and next to the river, there were a lot of ants, an anthill, and there were thousands of ants. And the waves of the water were lapping up and were carrying away many of the ants. And so when he saw that, the student built a little dam around it, built a dam and prevented the water from washing away the ants. And in this way, protected the lives of thousands and thousands of ants. And then he went home. And the teacher had told him, you absolutely have to come back on the 7th day. He didn't tell him the reason, but he told him you actually have to come back, absolutely have to come back on the 7th day. So on the 7th day, the student returned to the monastery and he didn't die. The teacher was wondering why this is, and so he sat down in meditation and he looked with clairvoyance and he saw that it was because the student had protected the lives of thousands of ants that had prevented his untimely death and instead increased his lifespan. And so this is a type of karma that is visibly experienced.
那在这里呢，举个例子，这个关于因果的例子，那要讲的是这个现世报的这样的这个因果，也就是呢今生所种的这个业因得到了在今生兑现了这个果报。那这个故事呢是大宝法王开示过的一个故事。也就是呢，善有善报，恶有恶报的这样的一个故事。那在很久以前呢，有一位上师在西藏，有一位上师，还有他的一位弟子。那这位上师呢，在这个禅定这个方面已经达到了一定的成就，而且呢，升起了一点神通的力量。那有一天呢，在禅定当中，这位大师就看到他的弟子，就预言了他的弟子在7天之后就会丧命。那知道了以后呢，他没有跟他弟子直接的说，他只是跟弟子说，你现在回家去看看你的父母，去看看你的亲友。然后呢，也没有跟他说为什么，这样子就让他去了。而这个弟子呢，在完全不知情的这个情况下，就自己回家去看父母了。那因为呢，他的这个寺院跟他自己的老家有点距离，所以他在旅途上呢，要跨过一条河流。那他就看到这个河流的岸上呢，岸边有上千只这个蚂蚁，然后呢，这些蚂蚁却因为这个河流的这个河水不断的拍打，一直被打入河里。所以呢，他就停下来，在这个河堤旁边呢，建了一个这个好像一个堤，就是保护他们的一个堤，让这个河水呢不会再拍打到这些蚂蚁。然后呢，在这个他出发之前呢，上师有跟他说，你无论如何7日之内要回来。所以呢，在7日之后，他回到了寺院，上师就很意外说，他为什么没有过世？为什么没有就因此这个如他在禅定当中所见的7日之内过世。那他就再次入定了，然后通过神通力呢，他就看到这个弟子救助这上千只蚂蚁的这个情景，所以呢才知道他因此而得了这个延寿，这就是一个现世报的一个例子。
Teni tala tangsa nyala chasam ki salangdor nila timo mundar chom se sungur. Teni ngarazu tuikyundu ta jidengi wangdu tambayina tala ngarazu tuikyundu tate tare sana pe tangbu chigores. Teni ngarazu tate ki ta kogi tagi nyo machayna nga tare sana teni sem nala tagi tsikdegi la pe chingyo bachamba chicha. Tate la pe tangsem. Nga di tadegi nga la chik tukcha chesare, nga tadegi nga la nyoba chesare, samne. Tadegi nga la tubo chesare, samne. Dede changyang semlo tani, teni nga ranzogi namdo de kya cheru chenpo chani, teni nga ranzogi tala tangsem chebala teni, teni nga ranzo semba kibo meba cha. Teni semba kibo meba chaba masebegi, teni kali chene, teni sosogi, teni sem kibo mebacha, teni soso ngagi koni tradela, ane chupa chaya gochu. Karo ni ngagi koni chupa chaya ki maze, tselenge wa lakpa lang ya. Teni lakpa lang wa maze, dechela chonja peche ta, chadang chala tangsem ki namba ki koni, tende chene, ta ngaranzo tende chen chagi ores. Teni nyen la chasem sa, soso ki nyen chi yorba, ta soso ki nyen, punja, nyen do, tenzo la ta kunjo som, Tale sosola tukso chena ngagi nyi sana chokwa chadang chori tati ngagi nami ngagi punja dede chanja chene. 말하자 착선 첨부지 얘네 되네 말하자 코로나 탈마토지야 대전에 차교래스
The text continues, we hate our enemies and cling to friends. Lost in the darkness of ignorance, we do not know what to accept or reject. And so there are people who we think are enemies, who we call enemies in this world. And when we say someone's an enemy, then we hate them. We don't like them. We hate them. We think we can't let them hurt us. We can't let them harm us. So this word enemy has a lot of potency. We think that the enemy is going to do us harm. They're going to treat us badly. And so we just think about that over and over again. And because we're thinking about that over and over again, our hatred gets stronger and stronger, and that we no longer have any peace, or we no longer have any happiness in our minds. Not only that, the more we think about this, eventually, because our minds are no longer happy, we then start to get into arguments. We get into conflict with them, either verbally. I think eventually, after you've had enough verbal conflict, it might come to using your hands and fists, or it might come to even using weapons and getting into actual fights. And so this all happens because of hatred. Likewise, we also have attachment to friends, and so we cling to friends. So we think they're different than enemies. These are friends. We have a lot of attachment and clinging to them, and we have such bias towards our own friends and families. And because of this attachment and this clinging, we are not able to free ourselves from samsara.
那这个法本呢，继续说着：嗔敌爱亲之心常生起，于取舍尽迷惑似愚痴。在这里呢，就是说我们呢会将一些人视为敌人，那嗔敌就是会让我们升起嗔心的这些敌人，而且呢因为我们把他们标榜为敌人，我们就会心里一直提防着他们，想说不能让他们伤害我们，不能让他们伤害我们。那也就是说呢，我们一直在假设他们会伤害我们，那因此呢，会对他们产生敌意，呢，一直在想着这个敌意，一直握着这个敌意，就会变成这个我们的嗔怒之心，就会嗔害之心就会升起。那当我们的嗔害之心不断的升起，我们的内心就不可能有这个平静或是快乐。那也因为我们的内心已经不快乐了，那我们就可能跟对方起冲突，可能升起口角，然后呢，由这些口角呢，又可能这个血球成这个真正的打起架来，用这个开始这个挥拳啊，然后挥拳踢脚啊，然后一直到甚至拿起了这个武器互相伤害。那这一切呢，都是由这个嗔恨所升起的。那非常相似的，我们跟我们的朋友，则是有另一种的执着。我们对自己的家人还有朋友会有非常严重的这个偏执，就是我们会偏爱他们。那也因此呢，没有办法从轮回中这个解脱。
인데인데 잠발라 달라 당셈 닐라 착셈데 가르치는 연구에서는 말하자 마셰와 마리파 왕기 달라 당셈 닐라 착셈 세네 데레체네 연구요를 가르치 연구요 말에서는 말하자 랑자당 도르체데 시기요 말에서 라야데 가레스 말하자 개와데레스 도르체데 가레레 미게와데레스 딘도인도서 달라 당와야 제고 말 닐라 착와야 착셈야 좀 당용기 강라 ngaranzu jotuwa ina, ngaranzu pemisi yabo yores. Pena cha chabada ngaranzu nyen sengandala, yabo che sang nyen ki tajo nga kajo mambo yores. Ngaranzu chade tango che da chagi pento nga mambo chungo yores. Dendo yunzu zambala ngaranzu tala tangsem, nyen la chasem na che kawa ma, dendo yunzu dam langdor nila timu mundar che sa, langbo cha che ya tang, dorcha che la sa timu, teni ngaranzu timu ki mumba chomba nanya timu pe, 톰데반나지 딘데기나라 뭐 팁저워지 저워지 차고라 딘데지 티모드 몸바데 마템바체네 나가라도 하고 몸바데 세워다오지 제데 페케 첨버레스
And so it says we hate our enemies and cling to our friends. And so why is this a problem? What is wrong with this? Or why does this happen? It is because of ignorance. We do not know. In particular, what we are ignorant about is that we do not know what to accept or what we should do, and not on what to reject or what we should not do. And what we should do is virtue, and what we should not do is unvirtue. And so we shouldn't hate our enemies or cling to our friends. Instead, if we can remain in equanimity, if we can be equanimous towards them, that is best. That is excellent. Like, for example, in this lifetime, you think how many friends you've had who you've treated as well as you could. You've done everything you could for them, and yet in the end, they have become enemies. Or also, there have been enemies who you've who you've hated or who have always struggled against, and yet in the end, they become your friends. How often does this happen? And so in this way, we shouldn't have hatred for our enemies or attachment to our friends. When we think about that, that is like the darkness of ignorance. We're lost in the darkness of ignorance. It's like that ignorance is so thick that we can't see anything. We are in the dark of it. And so we need to do whatever we can to be able to eliminate that darkness of ignorance.
所以呢，我们称敌爱亲，就是我们呢，对我们的这个敌人升起嗔心，对我们的亲人升起爱心。那这是为什么呢？是因为我们于取舍境迷惑似愚痴，就是因为呢，我们的这个愚痴无明，我们不知道如何去做取舍，在这个取舍境下呢，有迷惑。那我们真正要取的，或是应该要做的是什么呢？就是善业。我们要舍弃的，不该做的就是恶业。那所以呢，我们不应该这么去爱亲，然后称敌。我们应该要做到的呢，就是达到一个平等心，就是将两者都当作是一样的，都视为平等的。那拿今生来说的话，如果我们好好的去看我们在今生当中遇到了许多朋友，那这些朋友有多少是我们原本是非常交好的，对他们非常好的，结果后来变成了我们的敌人。那同时呢，也有多少敌人在今生当中遇到了多少敌人是本来我们非常的讨厌对方的，结果后来变成了很好的朋友。这样的例子呢，就是数不清的。所以呢，我们不应该去对我们的敌人感到这个嗔恨，也不应该执着于我们的亲友。如果我们这样子看的话呢，我们的这种无明愚痴就好像是暗黑一样，让我们看不清前面的方向。所以呢，我们要尽可能的去断除这种无明暗黑。Lama la microphone。
최신 저제 제모 니원 쇼르스 최민 저제 왕보 사지 동스 라마케노 토지 뉴토시스 뉴모 자워 총바르 진질로 없으는 송거래 당나는도 뒤준도 최신 저제 제모 니원 쇼르스 나는도 최적인 곰잡이 마네장이 곰바 저기 안디가 나 재밀로 로고치 셀라데가라테 직무는 이 쇼는 레로 첨부지는 빼 되바 매바 잡아진데 이제 차려래서 빼 로드 매바 쳐되면 빼나 차잡아이는 것도 다다 카시 되니 최지도 좀 람상 직 최인인도 좀 람상 고 직무 쇼는 이 쇼로 거래서 곰 까망아 저자 람상 이 쇼로 거래서 직무 쇼는 되는 지야 오 저자 람상 이 쇼 지금 내가 독자라고 지야다 밀라 카당야 도지다 밀라 견조야 도지다 되는 밀라 내가 독자 제와 도지 근데 저는 남상배 리퍼도 군요 다기 오늘 최저 리퍼 줄레를 하 답제 계산바지 야 파는 근데 배 리퍼 종종 도지 살고 종분 되는 지 자고래스
The text continues. When practicing dharma, we fall into dullness, drowsiness, and sleep. When not practicing dharma, we are clever and our senses are clear. Or to translate this differently, when doing non-dharmic things, we are clever and our senses are clear. Lama, think of us. Behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us that we overcome our enemy, the kleshas, or the afflictions. And so this is describing what often happens for us when practicing the Dharma, we fall into dullness, drowsiness, and sleep. And so we sit down, we decide we're going to do something, we're going to practice the Dharma, we're going to do a bit of meditation, we're going to go to the monastery, we're going to recite prayers, we're going to help someone, we're going to do something like that. And what happens is immediately our minds start clouding over and then you just fall asleep. And you have no clarity in your mind. It's like sometimes, people sit down, you say, okay, we're going to do meditation, and they sit down for meditation, and immediately their minds just get really cloudy, and then within 5 minutes, they're fast asleep. And yet these same people, when you talk about doing something bad, when you talk about doing something like criticizing someone or scolding someone or doing something else bad, something else that's bad, then their minds are immediately incredibly clear. It's like their minds are like 10 times or 100 times clearer than if they were than when they're trying to practice the Dharma. And so this is what happens. They get really smart and clever at that point.
接着呢，法本是这样说的，如法行时昏沉而无力，非法行时聪明而机敏。那堪布刚刚这里有指出，英文的翻译呢是说不修持佛法的时候，但是应该是说在做任何非佛法时的这个行持之时。所以中文是没无物的，是非法行时聪明而机敏。上师见知我，其以慈悲及垂顾，加持摧伏烦恼与怨敌。那在这里说的呢，就是当我们在行持佛法的时候，如法行的时候呢，我们会马上感到昏沉，感到无力。那譬如说呢，我们当下决定要坐下来好好修持，不管是要禅修，或是这个念经，或是要去寺院，可能一坐下来，我们就想要睡觉了。在禅修的时候，我们的心会马上感到这个污浊不清明，然后呢，可能坐了5分钟就睡着了。那相反的，当我们在行非法行的时候呢，或是在行不善的时候呢，我们譬如说要骂人，我们的心马上就变得非常清晰了，可能10倍、100倍的变得好聪明啊，骂得非常顺这样子。
tene de zambala tene ngala terenze khasang ngala zo ari ki sangyo nala karito ngodo khazangune da chög donda memang so kyabe donda la ta tene shelgo cha khangba chok tende chene runga ro chene trolang de tene no tanda ba de ngai thoma sos une lega tucha cherende ga tene ta kyupa kur une soso ki gyagap ki yona mena khangba de la tucha cherende ga la trolang ko pe misi niba yona mena tene ko tene tene 지 가서라 다 최명 주저서 최다 맞음비 지된다 맞음비 제가 제일 콜라데니 간들 내가 두자 지내지 호도거든 다 디난 신지기 슉더 세다 미셴발로 소이자 고야는데 내제 거기 수고 때다 신고자 총 소를 땅 로토바이나 공원에 제가 줘 버렸어 근데 제도가 말했어 먼저 최명기 들레가 줘봐 말아 지된이 초네는 줘봐 말아 최기도 초네는 최명기 내가 제는데 그리고 돈을 빼는 데도 없이라 고거래서 단디네 마용 벌었으네 라마케는 토진유도 시 세네들이 저송 거래서
We can see an example of this in the news that has come out of America in the last few days. There are people who, when they want to do things to help, they can't get much done. And yet when they get angry and they can go and they start tearing down buildings and destroying and vandalizing buildings and so forth, even the most important buildings in the country. I was amazed to see what they are doing. They get a little bit angry, and when they're doing something that's non-dharmic, something harmful, something that they go and they bring with themselves long sticks and staves and so forth, and they go and they start destroying property and so forth. So when they're doing non-dharmic things, and so this means non-dharmic means the chumin, or non-dharmic means things that don't fit with the dharma, that don't fit with the worldly way of doing things. These are the way. These aren't the ways of upstanding people. They're the ways of low lives, and so they have a lot of energy and a lot of strength in doing this. And yet, when it comes to protecting people, when it comes to trying to help people and protect people's lives, there's like a limit to what they can do. They aren't willing to go beyond a certain limit. But when it's time to do something that's non-dharmic, they're all for it. They're gung ho. And so you're praying here, please, the Guru, please think of us, behold us swiftly with compassion, protect us so that we don't be like that.
那这个呢，举个例子，就是近期这个在美国的这些新闻，让我们看到有些人呢，想要帮助的时候，助他人的时候呢，是不会有太多的这个贡献的。相反呢，当他们生气了，他们要这个破坏或是要拆访，倒是挺快的。 那我自己觉得非常的讶异，看到这样的一个景象，就是呢，他们在行这些非法行的时候，马上就捡起了棍子还有武器，然后呢，去要这个做破坏，做的非常的称心。那在这里呢，我们说非法行，这种行为呢，其实呢不是这个正直人该做的。 但是在做这些事情的时候呢，这些人可能有非常多的力气，非常多的精力，但是相反呢，等到有机会可以保护他人，做这个如法行的时候呢，就好像他们被限制住了，或是呢到一个程度就不愿再做更多了。所以在这里，我们就是要祈请我们的上师慈悲垂顾，让我们不要成为那样的人。
Teni tama de la nyomong tawo chomba chichi lo, so nyomong basa de na tawo de sure se na doja shedang timu sumde de. Doja shedang timu sumde la nyomong ba sumde de la duk sum sen la ge da ngaranzo nangbi goni. Tadi nyomong ba de karre tanda bardo kyoron lyunga yi sumde nyomong ba yogo chen de re. Da kene tanda bardo le kena yogo chen de re. Kowi service kyo ne kyoron ge kuli kyung tere, Nepali ke tamad pe karaso na yokbo nakshin chen tere. Ta karare nyumong de kerangi tiringi sunne da digyundanga she de gore kerangi trawo chombar chende. Doja shedang timmo sunne kerangi trare, kerangi khabde chago gore. Nga nyumongi wangdo mashorwa, doja ki wangdo mashorwa, shedangi wangdo mashorwa, timmo ki wangdo mashorwa chen. Kerangi khabdo chena chuma chungo gore. 오, 난 도저 다고 있게보다 어디 도저 왕도 셔는 지금에 마 도저다 마 짜고 shedan kewana nga shedan de kali jena shedan yo ba habone ma cha ko timu jo na nga timu ma bo yo lelo chemo yo nga chue che de timu de nyu mang de timu ji ni ji lo da san yin de ni ma ru de je de ni ko ya do re shedan je de shedan chero jene dambo shedan jene so so ke chila yo sa mila sik sup she trupa cha tene kali je pen de ne pa trupa cha cha yo tene tiga na ji doja chena chapa da pena gyu senga de ngarandu chigye na ni na sumyo ma de ba de ni sumbi mandring na tanda pa do ngarandu la tharwa da tamji chambe sangye komal to ma to ba ti nyomon ba de tiga na ji sendila deji me ba songa de korore inji mi ji deji me ba songa su so gora nyomon ba tok sumde nyomon ba sumde ngarandu trogo jindo yo da tanda ba trogo marda ta ngarandu nyomon do res 도대 안도 칼라스는 안도 가는 시도거래 안 디인데 잠발라 도대가도 가디어는 사야만 디인데 잠발라 이니 뇽몬 봐 자wo 좀 진질라브로치 있는 송거래
And so the last line of this verse reads, bless us that we overcome our enemy, the kleshas, or the afflictions. And so what are our enemies? It is the kleshas, the afflictions. The afflictions are greed, hatred, and delusion primarily. These are the three afflictions, and we call them the three poisons in Buddhism. But up till now, these afflictions, they've like enslaved our body, speech, and mind. Our body, speech, and mind have become like a servant. They're like a coolie, a worker who carries, who's just the lowest of slaves or servants. And that is what our body, speeches, and mind have become. They've become like slaves to our afflictions. And so we need to overcome, we need to conquer this, this enemy of afflictions. That means we need to overcome the greed, hatred, and delusion. And we have to speak back to them. We have to say, I'm not going to let greed take control of me. I'm not going to let hatred take control of me. I'm not going to let delusion take control of me. I'm not going to let it happen. We have to think to ourselves, it's not okay to come under their power. I have to do something to stop it. So when we have desire or attachment, we need to overcome it. We need to overcome it. We need to try to decrease it. We need to say to ourselves, I'm not going to let it happen. When we realize that we're getting anger or feeling hatred, then we have to do what we can to stop it. When you start feeling delusion or dullness, we need to do what we can to stop it. For example, when we're practicing the Dharma, we might feel like we're starting to get dull and then think that we might as well just go to sleep. Well, if you start to sleep now, you're going to sleep even more tomorrow and then more the next day. And then eventually it's going to lead you into getting anger and feeling hatred and so forth. And similarly with desire and attachment. If you feel attachment now, so at first you feel a little bit now, and then you're going to get one thing and then another and then the third thing and so forth. And then it's just nothing is going to work out for you. When you feel hatred, first you're going to start getting angry at the people around you. And then you're going to get angry and angry at more and more people. And so it is these afflictions that make it so that our lives don't work out. They make our lives unhappy and unpleasant. They're the main reason why we haven't achieved the state of Buddhahood, omniscience, and liberation. And so what is it that we need to overcome? We need to overcome the afflictions. They're like poison. So if we have poison, you wouldn't eat poison. If you know that there's poison, you don't eat it. But instead, we treat the afflictions like our friends. We think that they're our friends. So if it's poison, you know that if you eat it, if you ingest it, you know that you're going to die, and so we don't do it. And yet we treat the afflictions that are really like poison, we treat them as friends. So here it is saying, bless us that we overcome our enemy, the afflictions.
接着呢，这里祭文说祈请加持摧伏烦恼与怨敌。那在这里呢说的怨敌就是我们的烦恼，这是什么？那这烦恼是什么呢？就是贪心、嗔心还有痴心，就是我们在佛教常说到的三毒：贪、嗔、痴。那我们的身语意呢，身体这个言语还有心意呢，都被这三毒所缚束了。就好像长期以来，我们的身语意变成三毒的这个最低最下贱的这个俘虏了，所以呢，在这里我们要做的就是要克服这三毒，要克服贪，要克服嗔，要克服痴，也就是呢，我们要开始对它这个反击了。我们要说，我们不要被我们的贪心控制，我们不要受我们的嗔心控制，我们不要被我们的痴心所控制。要知道说，被他们控制是不是应该的事，是我们应该要避免的。然后呢，要去了解说，在一个情境下，要知道说，哦，我现在有贪心升起了，我已经发现它了，而且呢，我要对峙它，要知道要怎么做。然后呢，有痴心升起的时候，要察觉说，哦，我现在生气了，我要怎么做对峙它。有这个愚痴这个升起了，就要想说，我现在有点愚钝了，我要怎么做来这个对峙它。要这样子去做，不然否则举个例子，对，当愚痴升起的时候，或是愚钝升起的时候，可能我们在修持佛法，开始想要这个开始昏沉掉举了，那这时候呢，我们可能会想说，那我就睡一下吧。不行，这样想，如果我们现在睡了，明天修法的时候同样会睡，后天会睡更久，所以呢，这样子循环下去呢，我们就会开始感到这个非常的就会开始感到这个不满或是生气。那相同的，当我们的这个贪心升起了，我们要去发掘它，并且对治它，不然呢，日积月累的话呢，我们会升起这个 也是相同的，可能会点燃其他的这个烦恼，会让自己动这个怒气。那再来呢，就是当我们生气的时候，也要对峙，不然呢，只会对越多的人生气而已。所以呢，我们的生命至此以来呢，一直不顺，或是呢，让我们感到不满、不快乐，或甚至我们没有办法在修持上的证得佛果、证得遍知的这样的果位，那这都是因为我们的这些三毒烦恼所致。所以呢，我们在这里，我们要去克服它们，要去对治这三毒，这些烦恼，它们就像毒一样，所以我们叫它为三毒。但通常呢，我们知道有毒的时候，我们是不会去饮用它的。但是在这里，我们却将这些烦恼，好像当做我们的朋友一般的，不是将它视之为毒。所以在这里呢，我们就祈请加持摧伏烦恼与怨敌。
Tene chine tena yanda chupi song sus nando ramza choda mandrebe rudu shindo nyomo kona ves kenda treze chupi tsangda tun lama keno tuchu nyutu si rangi tulwa chenji lo sene sore kare sene ngaranzu chine teti gala tene ngaranzu traba imbayi na re ngakba imbayi na re digagi mikya poma su chue nyamlen che nange imbayi na chine tagida ta chalu de ta indu gala ngune cheba indo kao pe ko chue su nyingje chedo kao ko sem sangdo kao ngune shishing duro indo kao dabuji 통고요 res ina yang tene ngaranzo nangdu de ene rangsem de chöda mandrewa de yongyo res nangdu rangsem de chöda mandrewa de kande yongyo res na tene kapkapla tene pe chöba indondo kawad kendawo de chungchung jo cheyong de kala tene dukzhu shindo se dukzhu se de kana zhul senga de pe ringbo rimu yago jiyo renja jining jo de zhul de ne chungchung je de lamsam mi de soja go res 독줄 낭신이 뉴몽 되니 코나라 배낭신 야데 ngaranzo dende 제야요 말레스.
The text continues on page 56. From the outside, we appear to be genuine Dharma practitioners. On the inside, our minds have not blended with the Dharma. We conceal our kleshas like a poisonous snake. Yet when difficult situations arise, the hidden faults of a poor practitioner come to light. Lama, think of us. Behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us that we ourselves are able to tame our own mind. And so here what this is saying is that sometimes on the outside, they look like, and this is whether we're monks or whether we're tantric practitioners, whether you're laymen or lay women, no matter who we are, on the outside, the signs on the outside look like we are Dharma practitioners. It seems like you have compassion. It seems like you're a good person, a good heart. You seem so peaceful and subdued. And so that's what it looks like on the outside, but on the inside, what is your own mind? Your own mind is not mixed with the Dharma. It is like, so you're pretending to be, it seems like you're a Dharma practitioner, but when just you meet the slightest circumstance, then it's like there's a poisonous snake. So snakes, they're long and they're really actually kind of beautiful animals. So you might think, oh, what a beautiful animal, but you do the smallest thing that might harm it and it immediately bites you. And so we have these afflictions like poisonous snakes inside of us. And so here it's admonishing us not to be like that.
"接着呢，法本56页继续念：外表俨然清净行者相，于自内心却与法相违，如毒蛇般，烦恼藏于心。欲远即露行者之罪机，上师见知我，其意慈悲及垂顾，加持自己能调伏自心。那在这里呢，我们就说，在我们的外表，不管是这个出家众，或是这个密咒的这个行者，还是在家的这个善男女， 在这里呢，我们外表可能看起来俨然清净，像行者一般，也就是说呢，我们好像是一个好人，好像有一个善心这样子，好像是有慈悲心的这样一个行者，但是内心呢却与法相违，就是我们没有将内心真正的与法这个融合，好像遇到了任何小小的这个违缘。遇缘即入行者之罪机，遇到小小的违缘就露出了这个反面出来，就好像我们的内心住着一个毒蛇，所以这里说毒蛇般烦恼藏于心。那这个蛇呢，可能它作为一个生物，长长的看起来是蛮漂亮的，但是呢，稍微动到它，它就会猛扑。反咬你这样子，那在这里呢，我们就是祈请不要成为这样子。
내 까담바 개비신이 내가 가르쳐 그랬으나 또장 님이 주제 최비수 깽의 토도 봐봐 타말 봐서는 송거였으네 가르쳐 그랬으나 님아야 보셔 되네 칼아야 보라라 제대가나 되네 되네 님아야 보토 제대가나 빼 semba기 보더니 최방하면은 수인 삼삼라고 지요래 까담바 개비신이 송거잖아 다 데려가자 가는 좀 뱅고한다고 지금 다 다와 샤워를 차 민드스 디베션 기보면 차 나잘래 나주 되니 내가 나중에 셈바 기보 셔라메 근데 되가는 미기 직중중 지랑 람상 쪼랑 미기 직 람상 지랑 쪼랑 쪼쪼 공도 사쇼쇼 찍어 사쇼 아니 근데 제발은 말아서 최박이 민양다고 차려 말했을 때니 진에 대한 양다 최비서 낭도 랑sem쳐다 만들어지 차그랬는데 제가 말 괜히 가드 용바이는 거랑 좀 되는데 난고거레스
The Kadampa masters of the past had a saying about this. They said, when the sun is shining, you seem like a Dharma practitioner. When a circumstance arises, then you show yourself not to be a Dharma practitioner. And so what this is saying is that, like, when the sun is shining, it's warm, and you've got good food, and everything's lovely, and then you just feel to yourself, oh, I'm really such a Dharma practitioner. You feel love and compassion. You think to yourself, if I'm not a Dharma practitioner, who is? And then it's like winter here in Vancouver. It rains for months on end. And then there's an epidemic and you have to stay inside. You can't go out. You can't do anything. You can't go to restaurants. And then someone just says one little thing and you get annoyed at it. You get angry. You get PO'd about it. And then it turns out that you really aren't a true Dharma practitioner. You show yourself to really not be a Dharma practitioner. And so that is not how we should be. That is a sign that our minds have not blended with the Dharma. And so we should do our best not to be like that.
那在这里呢，往昔有一位噶当派的这个大师就曾经说过，好像是在这个太阳出来风光明媚的时候，你是一位行者，但是当这个立场改变了，或是情境改变了，你就不是这个佛行者了。那在这里呢，意思就是说，在这个天气非常好的时候呢，可能太阳照着，你的身体感到非常暖和，然后享用着美好的食物，一切都美好的时候，你就会心想说啊，我真好，我真是一个如法的行者。如果我这样还不是一个行者的话，那到底什么叫做行者？那相对的，如果可能现在在温哥华总是下雨，然后又有这个疫情，没办法出去餐厅吃上好吃的食物，或是去外面游走，那这时候呢，有人可能随口说了一句话，你就感到非常的不悦，然后呢，马上就这个暴跳如雷。那这种呢，就是一个征兆，说你还不是一个如法的行者。那我们要做的就是尽量避免这样的情境。
되니 랑기 툴वर 진질로 랑기 규데 다셈 경보데 소소 랑기 마툴나 나한테 경험감만 받네 툴투고 말해 영전 창고를 못 뺐네 툴투 상계 좀 된데 뺐나 툴투고 말해 이는 샘 간데 툴거래 대나라 냠는 제단 삼아 대나라 당마데 디어레스 나란수 샘데 나란수라 툴거래스 미셴바지기데 토아다오다 짜다오 지금 투고 말했어 나란수 샘데 소소랑기 투고 그래서 소소랑기 투고 말데 미셴바지 툴투고 말해 카브라 소소 이 쇼게 다오지면 야 랑차도 좀 발라더니 채널에 니람 여보 다지 마땅 니 여보르지 중마중 야사 되버르지면 야 랑한테 가르쳐로 해서는 지셈 마데시시 다오지 요레스 되는 라싱이 딩알 쇼샤바이나 되는 가란도 랑도 냠내기 또 나야 야고지 용어 말에 고롱이나 죄도 말에 야고지 용어 말에 뒤뒤가 쌤 정보 다오지는데 여기 오르데 이는 쌤 정보 용어다 하고네 오 딩아 쌤 대오면 바 정보마다 가와도 간데도 가르치는 레샤 야고 네가랑 나 곰잡 네가랑 나 쌤로다나데 잠바다 닝제 야고 지금은 란싱이 쓰는만 제 시와 그리고 다오지 쌤도 야고 툴투거레스 덴드엔드 담바데 라마케는 토진이도서 랑기 투바 진실로 서서 단디나라 랑기 투바 진실로 나랑이 셈는 나랑이 투바 진실로 그렇지 있으라고 꾸치 나기 규데 라마 치기 뚫르지 선디치드나 요 말스 나랑이 규데 나랑이 뚫르지 진압도 나로지 있어서 그래스
And so the last line of this verse reads, "Bless us that we ourselves are able to tame our mind." So if we are not able to tame, we have to tame our own mind. So if we aren't going to tame our own mind, who's going to do it? The Gyawan Karmapa can't come and tame your mind. Kenshin Tonga Rinpoche can't come and tame your own mind. The Bhagavan Buddha can't come and tame your own mind. No one else can do it. No one can come and how can anyone else do it? So here the advice and the instruction is we have to tame our own minds ourselves. No one can come, and you can't use a hammer. No one can take a hammer and tame your mind. They can't tame your mind with an iron bar. The only way it can happen is if you tame your own mind yourself. No one can tame your mind for you. And sometimes what happens is like we get up in the morning and maybe in the previous night, we just feel a bit off. In the night before, you might have had a bad dream. You might be uncomfortable. There might be some strange feeling or something. Your mind just doesn't feel right. And what happens is if we let ourselves, if we give into that, then we won't be able to know what we should do or what we shouldn't do. We won't be able to develop, to really fix or have a change or motivation for the better. So instead, what we need to do is when you wake up and you're in that sort of a mood, what you have to do is you first have to recognize it. And then you think to yourself, oh, my mind is not feeling so good. So why is it? And then you need to think about it. You examine yourselves and you meditate for a few minutes. Then you can look at your mind and meditate on loving kindness and compassion. And then if you do that, naturally your mind will then be able to become peaceful and relaxed. You'll be able to tame it. So this is why it says, Lama, think of us, behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us so that we are able to tame our own minds. So we need to be able to tame our own minds. Saying bless us to tame our own minds. We are not saying here, you please Lama, please you tame my mind. That is not what we're saying. We're saying, I need to tame my own mind. Bless me so that I can do it.
所以最后一句呢是说加持自己能调伏自心，在这里呢就是说自己能调伏自心，所以呢强调的是我们必须自己来调伏自心，并不是说呢有这个大宝法王可以来调伏我们的心，有这个看见创古仁波切能调伏我们的心，也没有世尊如来可以来调伏我们的自己的心。没有人可以帮你调伏你的心，没有人可以拿支铁锤这样子来调伏你，是要自己靠自己的力量来调伏这颗心。例如有时候我们早上起床的时候，可能会觉得好像有点 跟往常不一样，这个心有点不定，那可能是你昨晚做了一个奇怪的梦，让你起来有点恍神，总之就是觉得不太这个安稳这样子。那在这个时候呢，我们不要被这样的不安或是这个不平稳这样的心情带着走，而是我们要这个，不然如果我们就这么走下去，这一天就会觉得好像不顺利。那我们首先要做的呢，就是察觉有这样的情况，自己的心是处于一个比较不安、不稳定的状态。然后呢，我们要花点时间坐下来，好好的观察一下，看看到底是什么问题。那可以在这里呢，就可以做一个短暂的禅修，可以这个观修慈心还有悲心。这样子呢，这样去做，我们就会发现我们的心慢慢的平静下来，然后呢也会感觉好一些。所以呢，在这里我们祈请上师做的是加持自己能调伏自心，并不是祈请说加持上师能调伏我们的心。
Tene rangyonge ma rangi mato bes, chebi suksu, chemi nazo ches, nyomo miki lela shukji kom, kelo yanyang, kejang yanyang che, lama ke no tuje nyuto si, rangyo rangi tongwar chinji lo se songyo. Tene ta ngaranzu kariro sana, ngaranzu duikyondu, ngarangi kyonde matongwala, mi shunji kyonjanyang, 통그레스 가르송거를 셴라 따비 미게나 근데 랑라 따비 멜롱지 그 선송거래 된도 이제 방 알아줘 되니 지 가르서 오래 치 줄라 따비 미게바 신지 되니 소소 줄라에 따야게 멜롱시 메다 통게 말해스 된도 이제 잠발라 되니 알아줘기 쩐데 소소기 랑교랑바 랑이 마도 봐서 랑교게 말랑 소소게 랑데 되니 자니 마탕워치니 되니 미션이 쫀장장 못다도 미션이 쫀라 짱장 다니 쫀 셀레 대화를 쫀 삼을 열어서 쫀 매번 잠물링 메시지요마 되게 쫀라 때니 되는 알아줘이 묘몽 깨야지 마신 알아줘 뱀바 요 말에
The text continues on page 57. Not recognizing our own faults, we take the form of a Dharma practitioner while engaging in non-dharmic pursuits. We are habituated to kleshas and non-virtuous activity. Again and again, virtuous intentions arise. Again and again, they are cut off. Lama, think of us. Behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us that we see our own faults. So usually we don't really see our own faults, but we do see other people's faults. It's very easy to see our own faults. We don't see our own. It's kind of like when you are looking at your own face. You can't see your own face unless you have a mirror to help you see it. So in the same way, just as we need a mirror to see our own faces, we also need like a mirror to be able to see our own faults, because otherwise we cannot perceive them. And so when we look outside and we don't realize our own faults, and so when we look at other people, actually we only see their faults. And when you look and see other people's faults, then there's just an infinite number of faults to be seen, because everyone in the world has faults. And when we look and when we see faults in other people, then that only serves to increase our afflictions. It does not bring us any benefit.
接着呢，57页是如下：自身过恶，自己不察知，持行者相行种种非法，烦恼不善之业常宣习，善心一再滋生，一再折。上师见之我，其意慈悲及垂顾，加持自己照见己过失。那在这里呢，我们说到过失，通常呢我们看不到自己的过失，但是呢要看到别人的过失倒是非常的容易。这就好像我们自己的脸，如果没有一面镜子的话，我们看不到自己的脸。所以呢在这里相同的，我们需要其他的这个众生来看到自己的过失。那当我们在找自己的过失看不到半点， 我们则是看到随处一见，其他人一看到一个人就看见他的过失。那世界上这么多人，每个人的过失我们都数不清，这么多人的话就更多过失。如果这样子去看的话呢，只会增长我们自己的烦恼，对我们一点利益都没有。
Teni chebi soso, chomi nazo che sene sungare, teni chebi soso, ta ngaranzo trabaji imbai na, nga cheba yin, ngarang la yundin, kepa, zumbo, pe, meze ngarang shenda mandawa yin, samne, teni ngarang lama tsenda deba chi yin, sande teni, ngaranzo lega da, manda teni te kolo tsene lega, teni miche lami zun trawa, teni mambo chegyo re. 최비 소소 최민나서 내려제나 아니 나라도 되게요 말해. 인데 있는 배나 땡나라도 최비 소소 최비 세단 때마 제거를 맞아. 엔 최비의 민코네 엔 최민나서 쩌나 나라도 되게요 말해서 디주인데 tambala 엔 디체벌 때네 가리 용거래 엔 용mom부터 미게빌레데 슈기 되네 되제 곰드고요래서 디 곰발레네 아니 나라도 개와 제비로 돼 야양 나라도 체조고요래서
So it says, we take the form of a Dharma practitioner while engaging in non-Dharmic pursuits. So we think to ourselves, oh, I've got the form of a Dharma practitioner. I'm a practitioner. I'm learned. I know a lot. I've studied a lot. I've got good discipline. I'm different than other people. We might think that we have all the qualifications of a Lama, think I'm a good Lama or so forth. But then what's happening is that actually we're just telling lies about having the superior human qualities. And to do this is by no means okay. And so if we are going to look like a Dharma practitioner, then we have to act like a Dharma practitioner. If you look like a Dharma practitioner, then act the opposite. To act non-dharmically is not okay. Because if we do that, then what's going to happen is that our afflictions and non-virtues will just naturally increase or automatically increase. And when that happens, then all of our virtuous intentions are just automatically cut off.
所以呢，这里说持行者相，行种种非法。那在这里呢，我们可能外表是这个，好像一个行者，觉得说自己是确实的在行这个，在修持佛法，学了很多，了解很多，而且持着非常清净的戒律等等，好像我自己就是具德的这个上师一般的这样子有种种的功德。那其实呢，这样子呢，这个这样子呢，是我们自己在欺骗自己，而且是不对的行为。如果我们外表看起来像行者，那这个也要行种种法，并不是行种种非法。不然的话呢，外表行者相则行种种非法的话呢，这是不应当的。如果我们是外表是行者，内在也行着。实际上也行着法的话呢，那就我们的功德会自然而然的滋生，自然而然的增长的。不然的话呢，则是会断了我们的这个种种功德。
된대인데 정말라 랑기 통과 진실로 뒤견도 되는 거란죠. 아 초과된데나 쉬고이나래 레오나라 쉬고이나래 소소게 남이차를 되바이나래 뒤견도 거란죠. 랑기 대 통해도 배 개첨버래. 랑기 통해기 당분이라 랑기 견견견 랑기 견가리도 단에게 계랑이 뒤견도 된대지는 난 되바이나 가두이나 미참하게 강연치 차기래스. 되니 가두이나 소소견의 짠이 마통 맞히는 니라 견캐야 저번에 가로네 아니 소소 낭미 펜조인 바이나래 조 펜조인 바나 미타당기 아니 소소로 막아버려 차기래스. 소소가 막아줘 마차비기 밑에 순능다고지기 밑에 통용도 가는 미 막아버려 차기래스. 미 막아버려 차용도 가나 되니 나란 좀 미인데 잠말라 나란 좀 미세데 미 지존나 계거래 이나 미 낭미 계거래 계거래 아라도 망 셔다 미 담마튼 바 조포부 펜준 사장이 펜준 초박의 펜준 tropogu penduna matumba da karichin chawr zo de ngaranjo rangyo rangi matongwala teni chungores rangyo rangi tongbaina ani te kansore teni ngaranjo tropogia kawochi nyewo chagre nangmia pen종에 가오체 차그레스 rangyo rangi matong bachene shengyong kyanang te zabachene tigoman dindendu tsamala dangaranzu degi nyamnen chewala tene tirinne sone rangyo rangi tongwara ngarangi kyonde karidu dagi mi shembala kyonde tsegi me sambada dindeche nyamnen nang tubayna mize dondande bachagres.
And so it says, bless us that we see our own faults. So whether we're thinking about it in terms of society, or whether we're thinking about it in terms of our office or work, or in terms of our family, it's really important for us to see our own faults. We need to think to ourselves, what are my faults? What problems do I have? And if we think about that, then gradually we'll be able to get along with everyone, and everyone will like us. But if we're unable to see our own faults, and instead, if we're only looking for other people's faults, then eventually people won't like us. No one will like us. It'll be when we come in, we're always looking at other people and looking for their faults, and people will feel this and say they won't like you in return. Because we're human, we have to live in society. We live in families. We have friends, and when we lead our life, if we are always looking for other people's faults, then we won't get along with people, whether it's with our friends or with our families or in offices or in society. What is it that we need to do? Well, we need to look at our own faults. We don't see our own faults. And if we don't see our own faults, then our friends or family or no one else will like us. This is because we're not looking for not seeing our own faults, but instead we are looking for others' faults. So it is important for us to think to ourselves, oh, what are my faults? We need to look for our own faults. And if we look for faults in ourselves, but don't look for them in others, then that will help us have a meaningful human life.
所以我们祈请上师可以加持自己照见自己的过失。那在这里呢，我们在生活当中，不管在社会、在公司、在工作上、在亲友之间，我们都要想说我的过失是什么。然后呢，如果我们可以好好的去检视、检讨自己的过失、自己的短处，那慢慢的我们就会发现我们跟其他的人都相处得非常的融洽，然后其他的人都会别人也都会对我们这个比较喜欢我们这样子。那相反的，如果我们一昧的一直在找其他的人的这个短处，或是看着其他人的这个过失，那他们的反馈呢，则是会对我们有所不满，或者是不喜欢我们的。那身为人呢，在这个社会中生活也好，我们有亲人，有朋友，总是有生活要过。但是在生活当中，如果我们这样子只是一昧的去看着，去注重于他人的这个短处、他人的过失，那我们就不可能相处的融洽。我们要做的呢，就是好好的检讨自己，好好的看看自己的过失。不然的话呢，亲友都不会对我们友善的。所以呢，在这里我们要做的就是好好的检讨自己，好好的看看自己有什么样的过失，照见自己的过失，而不是去看别人的过失。这样子做的话呢，才有办法让我们的生命具足意义。
Tene share sonje chela papar nyes, nyere loje rangi chichir kyongs, lama tenche mugwe rimjit, chela tsetong danang chechung song, lama kena toje nyuto se mugwe rangi turwar chenje lo sene songore. Ta share sonje chela papar nyes, sene kari songore sene ngaranzu ta kazangi nima, ta dawange ma, longe ma, tene nimarere chindo ngaranzu tutu, ngaranzu mise se karma dawa shado kali chine ngaranzu par jane chiwala tene nyewa chugores 때 지단게 지나 치와들라 녀월 용디가나 랑규데 되니 소소게 셈된 둘네 야루 조가데 빼 개체모레 어느 소소 랑규데 마도와 체네 어느 소소게 셈데 과 깜보나지 경루 드는데니 경루 드는데 나 진짜 거래 된대지나 라마 때네 뭐그 림지 팀스 소소게 라마데 때네 뭐그데 야고 때네 소소게 셈 경보데 아니 티스 보호자고 있어야 돼 개체모레 내가 난 신기 당하라서 샤레서 제발 제제 파바니 선에 되는 알아서 라마 땡기요레스 답변 알아서 소소 라마 땡연데 담아 갑갑라 알아서 가리용 거래서 나랑 게 냠용이 돈이 제발나 소소게 잡일 라마데 잘이 요링보 지대바이나 라마 되기 연대데 마도마데 괜찮장 전에는 라마가 괜찮장 땅 견통 맞아야 되는 딜라테는 되는 소소게 샘다 교로 내리지 용도 거래스.
So the text continues on page 59. With the passing of each day, we come closer and closer to death. As each day arrives, our minds get more and more rigid. Though we serve the Lama, our devotion is gradually obscured. Our love, affection, and pure outlook toward our Dharma friends diminishes. Lama, think of us. Behold us swiftly with compassion. Bless us that we tame our obstinate mind. So here it says, with the passing of each day, we come closer and closer to death. So from each day, from last month, from last year, from yesterday, from every day, we're getting closer and closer to the end of this life. And so each moment and each day, we are approaching the time of our death. And so it is important as we approach the time of our death for us to be able to tame our own minds and to become better and better people. If we do not tame ourselves, then our minds are going to get more and more rigid. And then what will happen is, as said in line 59, on page 59, it says, though we serve the Lama, our devotion is gradually obscured. And to just speak about this from experience, if you spend a long time with your root guru, for example, then you stop seeing their qualities and you only see their faults. And when that happens, what happens is that your mind gets more and more hardened and more and more unclear.
接着呢，在法本的第59页，逝者如斯死亡日益近，日复一日自心亦顽强，依止上师前进次第减，兄弟仁爱悲悯逐渐薄。上师见之我，其意慈悲及垂顾，加持调伏自心之难选。那在这里呢，我们就是说我们离死亡的日子越来越近了。从去年一直到上个月到昨天，我们一步一步的迈向死亡。但是呢，在迈向死亡的同时，我们要做到的就是要调伏自心。如果我们在这日复一日的没有去好好的调伏自心的话呢，我们的心会变得越顽强、越顽固、越僵硬。那透过这个自己的这个亲身经验呢，跟各位分享，就是在这里如果依止上师，那可能很久了以后，跟着上师一段时间了，会开始觉得自己的心慢慢的变成这个僵硬了，或是慢慢的变成不清明了，然后呢，就会觉得自己的前进的次第减少了，就是对上师的前进好像越来越僵硬，看不到上师的功德了。
인도인도 잠발라 라마이나 소소케부레 나란조 소소케부기 라마시 이나야 나란조 카초데 견데라 마데나 연데라 타야데 당 무그데 펠티 요하기 레송요레스 갈때 견견견 때 대바이나 견망보 통용요레스 견망보시 라밍웨네나 용대바 마이바 나란조 소소게 라니게 가르치고레 나란조 소소게 라니게 조닥 잡아 용대기로 송교레스 pena ngaranzo soso sama ngaranzo soso Sabi Lama de tene kariresa ta ngaranzo Sabi Lama sanga de idamgil ha kya thamba she jebale ka Sabi Lama de kechik temba chamchi ani ngaranzo yaare sungyor te karicheresa ngaranzo toche chang telo naruni mala ngaranzo tawaje kaju pares kaju pe narim la kaju choshi na lama radha rima mambo peres ngaranzo tripada mugu kyapsu chogo ores imbayina kong namba ki kabla ngaranzo koranzo den jiya ki kogabra irayo mares ngaranzo tsa chimbore kyapsu chogo inala ngaranzo soso la karise tsa chimbore na soso ki lamdangwa ne kong namba la hachuji soso ki tsabi lama tanda ki tsabi lama deres soso tsabi lama der sangye da la si koya te dinde jene chagre dinde indu tsambala tene ngaranzo tsabi lama senga ne ngune tane ki tsabi lama de tu nye so na 아니 이담게 초주 잡아 세다 라마 자비 라마데 투니에서나 초주 잡아 세다 잡아 탐제 투니에 왔다고지 차유요래 송요래 소소 자비 라마데 투니에 마서나 이담라 초주 잡아 세다 잡아 투 맞아 왔다고지 되잖아 송요래 내려인도 잠발라 되니 말한도 참아 아니 소소 자비 라마라 대바다 무기대 야보지 요바이나 탄디 라마 장보단 잡아야 되니 소소기 무기대 요바이나 라마게 진압대 야자자 담반되지 요레스
So our gurus are ordinary individuals, and we are ordinary individuals. And because we're all ordinary individuals, it's important that we not look for faults, but instead look for qualities. And if we, because this is what will determine whether our devotion and faith will increase or decrease. If you're looking for faults, you're only going to see faults, but the faults that you see will not actually be the Lama's faults. They're actually your own projections that you're projecting upon, faults that you're projecting upon the guru. And so what is our root guru actually like? It is often said that seeing your root guru for just a single instant is better than having visions of hundreds of Yidam deities. We're in the Kaju lineage, it has passed down from Vajradhara to Telopa to Naropa, and there have been many great lamas in the Kaju lineage. We should have faith and devotion in them. We should go for refuge to them. And yet, at this day, we were not born at the time of those lamas. We never had any opportunity to actually see them. So they're important lamas. We go for refuge to them, but with our root lama, it is different. And so with our root lama, we actually have the opportunity to see the root lama now. For this reason, the root guru is better. This is why, because we have the opportunity to see and hear the root guru, it is said that the root guru is better than all of the Buddhas. And so if we please our own root guru, it is the same as pleasing all of the Yidam deities. It is the same as pleasing all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. And if we displease our root gurus, then it is the same as displeasing all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions. And so for that reason, it's important for us to have faith and devotion in our root guru. And this is why it is connected to this calling the guru from afar. And so we need to look for the guru's qualities. And if we do this, then it is 100% certain that we will find the blessings that are in it.
那我们的上师呢，他们身为凡夫，我们自己也是凡夫，所以呢，我们身为凡夫不应该找寻其他人的这个过失，我们要做的是在上师的身上找他的功德，不然的话呢，如果我们在他身上找过失的话，我们只会一直找到缺点，一直找到短处。但是呢，这些我们所见的这些短处、这些过失，并不是真实的，是我们自己将它投射在我们上师身上的。所以呢，有这么一说，就是说我们的根本上师只是亲眼的见他一面呢， 远胜于我们亲见这个上百位本尊。在噶举派呢，是从这个金刚总持传至第洛巴尊者到那若巴尊者，一直到下面好几百位这个噶举祖师传承的祖师。那这些祖师呢，都非常的伟大，非常的重要，但是呢，我们却没有办法亲见他们，没有办法从他们在真正的遇见他们。所以呢，当然呢，我们皈依他们还是很重要，但是呢，这跟我们的根本上师是有所不同的。我们的根本上师是我们真正有机会去这个亲近的，去这个亲眼见到的，去跟他听取佛法的，领取教言的。所以呢，也可以有这么一说，就是说，跟我们的根本上师呢，是比所有的佛陀都来的殊胜的。所以呢，如果我们好好的去取悦上师，让上师这个开心欢心的话呢，那这就好像我们取悦了所有的这个本尊。那相反的，如果我们这个让这个上师不悦的话呢，就好像让所有的本尊十方的诸佛菩萨都不开心，是一模一样的。所以呢，这就是为什么我们一再的强调要对我们的上师，对我们的根本上师有这个亲近的信心，还有前进心。这也是为什么这个前进心是跟这个遥呼上师祈请文有着这么重要的联系的。所以呢，我们在这里一再强调要做的就是从上师身上找到功德，这样子一来呢，我们100%是可以得到这个传承的加持的。
Tani kewe tsawa de chwe sheba poda nyame podi kewe tsawa de dhruwa rizhu simchen tamchi ki tundungu ne holam yabo chi kyam naro chi is.
Now, all of us, the person who's teaching the Dharma and those of us who are listening to the Dharma, should dedicate all of our roots of virtue for the sake of all sentient beings in all 6 realms of samsara.
那我们现在以听法者还有说法者所有的功德呢，所有的累积的善根都一起回向给6道轮回中所有的众生。
Teji ngonzara pado memba yin dewa jinji jabe shikande dajen dene zebe yuma dai dewa jinji varma juba Tero jene nande jadon jo dege dage mola dawande chojo sanje janse namje je geme jovara jinji lalu Deya da benza deya wambada nai Soy chote jawa seche gong zonyi tola jira Tage kwezo kisa ba kuncho solo jiba Kyawe tenpa pe jo je kewa senche gulang Kowa sanye to jo je keza tamche chete Tage jola mincho je tenye dane zozo de Sere neme nyamdo be zende zojo nanjo Namje zewe nyuma da dewa jindo jeju Yene mema gaje de le den de la sanye Chanjo tomne chese do duwe do Chembara jo sete jo so dambe jeju zo layang bebe goja jigo Samje shedo jewa sheze ba wuje tile doje jade jo dembe wajo kama loje Chebe zambo yende goja do beje jabe dode jedo Chile chole namja be wa jo so namde tamje seba Tomna nyebe dana manje ne jega naje bala duba Sebe tole ndowa de barajo. Thank you. See you 2 p.m.
2点见，2个钟头后休息。
Good lunch.
呃
Good lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.